Hey there, solar nerds. Chris Kroll here again, your quarantined host for Solar Distancing. I don't know why I'm doing this hand move right now. The managing editor of Solar Builder. And as we have been most of this week, we're exploring the nuances of grid-tied solar and grid-tied solar plus storage. And now we're going to add another element into the mix, my title card for today. Can batteries and generators coexist in the same system? So to help us answer that, I have Paul Dailey, Director of Product and Market Strategy with Outback Power. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Hey, you're welcome anytime.
I like your snazzy headphones. You're more professionally ready to go, I think, than the rest of your Outback brethren, so I have high hopes for this one.
Well, I do try.
So I guess let's just start by trying to answer that question. Can someone that already has a solar plus storage system add a generator, or is there even a point in doing that? I guess just where do you stand on that issue?
Yeah, well, a lot of folks don't realize that, in the off-grid systems, generators were pretty standard and still are, because it really helps you to not have to oversize your batteries, not have to oversize your PV array as much. So in an off-grid system, which we've dealt with obviously for a long time, you'd have a generator, and if you sized everything correctly, you would run that generator for like a couple weeks around the solstice, or during a major storm or something where you just don't have adequate solar resource. The same kinds of considerations can apply when you're talking about a backup system, right? So you have a couple of options if you want to have an extended backup. One is you can put a lot of batteries into it. Another option is to have a smaller battery bank and complement that with a small generator. And then if you don't have enough PV coming in, or you just have a bigger set of loads than your system is built for, you can use that generator to fill in the gaps. So the idea is you're not running the generator very often. When you are running it, you're running it at its peak efficiency. And it's a nice complement to the system. So if you've got a solar, a PV only, a PV only grid tied system, you can add the generator when you add the ESS. If you've got an ESS, it may be a little more complicated. Ours, of course, have generator ports for the most part, so that's pretty straightforward. And it's just a matter of getting a generator that's about the right size and that's produces a fairly clean waveform so that you don't damage your loads.
Gotcha. So are these typically done at the same time? Because I kind of framed it as you have solar plus storage and maybe you add a generator, but you could obviously, I guess, go the other way. You have a generator, maybe you want to add batteries. Is like one more common than another? I guess, is this common at all, or how, what is the market for this kind of three-pronged approach right now?
Yeah, so like I said, with an off-grid system, you typically just put it all in at the same time, because you're really planning things out and designing it and doing all of that. In more aftermarket scenarios, if you're putting in your ESS, you may want to size that with a generator to save a little money and give you some added flexibility. Or if you're someone who has a generator but doesn't have solar, doesn't have storage, you can also add the solar and storage and then incorporate the generator that exists into the system.
Got it.
And I'm going to oversimplify all of that a little bit, but it's not impossible. It's actually, by and large, pretty straightforward to do that.
Got you. So is it more of a money saving idea, or is it more, well, I guess, or is it like a way to, because you said off grid, obviously, so you want to cover all of your loads with as much as you can, to cover everything. Is it more about being able to do all of that, or is it about just being able to use fewer batteries because a generator would cost you less over time? Just wondering about that balance.
Yeah, it really depends on how you're going to use your loads, right? So the idea with a generator is you want to have it there for the extremes, but you typically don't want to run it every day, right? Because nobody wants to listen to it. Nobody wants to deal with the emissions. But if you're running a generator either a couple hours a day, or one day a week, or one day a month, it makes a lot more sense. And it allows you to not have to oversize your batteries for that incidental load, right? So where we used to see this a lot is, if someone had, say a place that was a weekender, and they were concerned about the power going out a lot, they would have a generator there so they could still have their weekender activities. And then they would just turn it off when they left. And then a much smaller system sort of maintained everything while they were away. In a more kind of suburban setting, you might add, say, a 5 or 10 kilowatt generator to a grid tie energy storage system that's maybe lets you get away with, say, an 8 or a 10 kilowatt hour battery instead of a 20 kilowatt hour battery, right? Because you're talking about probably $10,000 to $15,000 worth of battery that you can effectively replace with, say, a $3,000 to $5,000 generator, and because you're not going to need that for your energy management, right? You can size the battery for your time of use arbitrage, and then use the generator to augment that for the backup. And because you have that energy arbitrage system there, you also can arbitrage the energy from the generator. So like I said, you maximize the value of that generator, right? Because one thing people don't understand about generators is when you just put in, say, a 40 kilowatt generator on your whole house, that generator, if you don't have 40 kilowatts of load, is going to run at, say, 5 kilowatts or 6 kilowatts. And in most cases, that's not a very efficient point for that generator to run at. It's going to be using almost the same amount of fuel as it would use if you're running it at the full 40 kilowatts. So you're much better off from a fuel consumption, emissions, and efficiency point of view if you put in, say, a 10 kilowatt generator and a 5 or 10 kilowatt ESS system, and you just basically run that generator only at the 10 kilowatt point and only when you need to recharge the batteries. Or if you have a load that momentarily goes beyond what the ESS can provide, you can also augment that with a generator, so you can have 20 kilowatts of load, which is more than most homes need.
Sure. So then on the equipment side, what are considerations then for the inverter? I mean, this is a lot of different ins and outs of things that are going to be powering the home and various loads. What are special features that are needed? I assume just not any inverter, setup can handle all this.
Yeah, the main thing you have to be careful of is, you can't just put a generator with any inverter, because you have to have a way to make sure that that generator doesn't get backfed. And it gets even more complicated if you're AC coupling. So in virtually all of our products, we have a generator port. So the Radiant has a generator port, the Skybox has a generator port, and that takes care of that anti-backfeed protection. If you're AC coupling with a Radiant, there is an additional relay that we recommend if you're going to incorporate a generator into that system, that basically just makes sure that the grid tie inverter doesn't run when the generator is running. Because when you do that, if you backfeed that generator, you can cause damage to it. But not every inverter out there, and even most battery inverters don't have that generator input and don't have that anti-backfeed protection. So if you're going to incorporate into other products, you typically need additional equipment, some kind of automatic transfer switch or isolation device that, again, prevents that backfeed.
Got it. Okay. So this is, one of the more kind of like complicated installs that we've kind of been discussing so far. I feel like where should interested parties go to get up to speed? Is there like more specific training that they need, and where can they go to access it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is a little bit more advanced topic. Now you've got not only PV, you've got energy storage, and now you've got a generator, and you're kind of juggling all these generation sources. We do cover this in our energy storage for solar professionals curriculum. So some of our more advanced trainings. We are planning some webinars in the not too distant future where we'll cover this in more detail. And in the meantime, reach out to myself or one of the other guys. Most of us are fairly up on this, and we can help you walk through the basics.
Got it. All right. Well, that was great. That you covered a lot of depth in a very short amount of time. I appreciate it. It goes to the professional setup that you have there. You definitely know what you're doing when it comes to a video chat. So I appreciate that, Paul. And I hear that my dog just got back from a walk, so I think that is about time that I wrap things up. So thanks for taking the time today, Paul.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and thanks again to Outback Power for sponsoring solar distancing so far in our journey. Remember to stay away, stay safe, but go solar.